Alright, hi everyone. This is a tutorial for following along the Airspeed Indicator tutorial for Flight Connect. Alright, so there's a few things you need to get started. Firstly, you need to have Flight Connect installed, and also you need a text editor. So anything will work, but I prefer Visual Studio Code, so I recommend you download that. And there's a link in the tutorial here. Right, firstly, to get started, we need to open Flight Connect, and we're going to go down here and open the instruments folder. Now we need to create a folder for our new instrument. I'm going to call it Airspeed Tutorial. And we're going to open up that folder in Visual Studio Code. I'm also going to open up a few more files. So go to Shared and then just drag client.js in as well. We're not going to edit it, but it will come in handy. So firstly, create a new file, call it index.html. Now if you look from the tutorial here, it shows what we need to do. So we need to create an HTML declaration with a header. And this gives the instrument some knowledge about what it is. So the main thing to set here is the title. So we're going to call it Airspeed Tutorial. And this also loads in a shared style sheet, which has some useful things that make it work with Flight Connect. For example, it gives it a black background and makes it draggable. All right. Now we need to create a body. Visual Studio Code will automatically create closing tags for you, so that's very handy. In the body, we put the link to the images. So firstly, we need to put these two images to our folder. Just go back, go to Airspeed Tutorial, create a new folder, we'll call it Assets. Now you should just be able to drag the images from the tutorial into your folder here. So this is the background for the Airspeed, and you got the needle. All right, so in the HTML, we're going to link to these. So we'll copy this, and I'll explain what each part does. So this is an image tag, so loading an image. The src attribute will say where is the link to the image. So it's in the assets folder / airspeedback.png. The alt tag is not important, but the ID tag is. That will later on it will let us link back from our JavaScript code to load the image so we can modify it. And do the same with the needle here. All right. Next, we need to add some links to some scripts. So Flight Connect needs 2 scripts that come with it in order to run. So we'll add these now. Got host.js, which is just a simple configuration, basically pointing where should Flight Connect connect to. And client.js is the actual connection logic, handles sending back all their data. The third script we need to link is airspeed.js. This is where we're going to put our logic for our instrument. Finally, we just need to close the HTML. Each tag needs an opening and closing tag. Visual Studio Code will highlight it for you. Save that. Now create a new file called airspeed.js. This is where the logic of our instrument will go. Firstly, we're going to specify the width and height of our instrument. This will make it a fixed 240 pixels by 240 pixels. But if you don't want that, if you want it to be the size of the window, we've got a utility function for that. It's called utils _ get window shortest side length. this function just returns what is the length of the shortest side of the window. So it will always fit. Now we need to get references to the image tags we created in our HTML. So this uses, I will type it for you. This uses a function called getElementById, which looks in the HTML document for an element of a specific purpose. We gave it a name. These names correspond to the ID here. Now that we've got references to them, we need to center them in the window so they overlap. So use this code here. It's another utility function, util center element, and it needs the instrument width and the instrument height to do that. Okay. Now we're not finished yet, but already if you open up Flight Connect and you click refresh the list, you can see our Airspeed tutorial has shown up. If you double click this, then it'll open up and it appears correct, but we don't have any logic yet and there's no way to connect up any data. So we'll work on that now, but if you can see that they're overlapped and it's all positioned correctly, that you know what you've done so far is working. All right, I can close that and get back to the code. So one function that we're going to need is to work out per knot of airspeed, how many degrees of rotation does the needle need to do? So basically you have to work this out through trial and error, but conveniently we've already worked it out for you. I'll walk through the code though. So here is a variable we'll use to sum up the total number of degrees, because as the airspeed increases along the gauge, the scale changes. So we need to be able to have different multipliers. So the degrees, 15 knots to 80 knots is 2.77 degrees per knot. Between 80 and 190 is 1.5 degrees per knot. This utility function just tells us how far through the range, each range we are. And then we just simply sum the number of knots in a range by the number of degrees, and we sum from the next range and the number of degrees, and then we return this value. So it's all well and good, but we need a function to be actually able to rotate the needle, not just know how far to rotate it. So that's what this function here is for. Copy, paste that. Rotate needle, it takes one argument, which is the airspeed, which is a number. Rotation is equal to the degrees for knots. So this is a function call. We'll pass in our airspeed to here, calculate it, and return it back and assign it to this variable. Now we need to apply the rotation transformation, and we're changing a CSS property here. So needle.style.transform equals rotation variable degrees. If you don't want to do it like that, we've actually got a handy utility function called utils rotate. And here, all you need to apply is the element, so it's needle, which refers to this, and the degrees, which is rotation. You should know that under the hood, this is just the same thing. It's just an alias to make it easier to read. All right, now that we've got that, still not quite done. We need to actually connect to Flight Connect. So this is what this bit of logic here does. We're going to create a connection. Right. So the app connection actually has, well, we'd better actually finish it properly. Okay. The app connection has some information that we need to pass through. So we give our instrument a name, an airspeed, and here is the host that we're going to connect to. So this refers to the configuration in host.js, which is in a shared folder. And you can see we've got it set to automatic. So you don't need to change that for this tutorial. Right, identifier, tutorial. So here we need to make our data ref subscription. So it's very simple. It's connection.dataref subscribe. You need to pass in the name of your rotation function. So this is what the data is going to get passed to. You pass in this. This is important, it's necessary, but it's a little bit complicated on why. And you need the data ref name. So this is the explain data ref. If you want to create your own instruments, you're going to need to know the names of the data you want to access. You can find that online just by searching explain data ref list. But this is the one for Airspeed that we need. So what this will do is it will ask Flight Connect, hey, what is the value of the airspeed at the moment? It'll return, and Flight Connect will just pass it into the function that you specified and apply your logic. Right, so if we save this, then if we've done everything correctly, we should close airspeed that we've got here, reopen it, and as you can see, Flight Connect has made the connection to Flight Connect app, which will allow us to test and put in our own values while we're not running explain. So if we just put a number in here, 50, we can see that it shows up on our instrument. We can use the arrow keys to increase and decrease that. And we can see as we go past 80 knots that the scale changes and everything is lined up quite nicely, and so on. So, yep, that's how we get it working. I'll go through a few common problems, things that you might encounter if you've made a mistake, things that might not work, and what might happen. Also, I will show you how to open it up in a normal web browser and access developer tools. So all you need to do is click this reveal and find a button. It'll open up in a window. This is just the same HTML file. If we right click on this, we can open it in Firefox. And we can see that it automatically connected and that it's used the size of the window. So we'll make that a little bit smaller and refresh. And we'll open up the developer tools. Tools, web developer, tools. You can see some logging information here. So if we go into HTML code and we just make a mistake, say we forgot to include client.js, what's going to happen? Well, for one, you can see we've got an undefined reference because it's complaining that it doesn't know about this get shorter side length function, and that our needle and airspeed back is not, they're not aligned anymore. So if this is what an error that you find, it'll be because your client.js has failed to load for some reason. It also won't work, say, if you put your airspeed script first, because all of the scripts that are defined that you use in airspeed, like amount between app connection, are all defined in client.js. So client.js needs to come before airspeed. Alright, so that should be about it. All you need to get it working. Thanks.